Welcome to the Learn and Talk English podcast.
I'm just so thrilled to be here with you all today.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. So right now, as we're speaking, there are roughly 1.5 billion English speakers worldwide.
Wow. 1.5 billion. That's just a huge portion of the planet.
Right. But here is the really fascinating part. Out of those 1.5 billion people, only about 375 million are actually native speakers.
That statistic always blows my mind.
I know, right? The rest of them, they're exactly like you.
Mm.
People who just decided to learn this language to connect, to work, and to explore the world.
Yeah, we use this term in linguistics. We call it a lingua franca.
A lingua franca. What does that actually mean for our listeners?
So it essentially means a bridge language. English is no longer just the language of England or the United States. It's the global bridge.
Oh, I see. Like a bridge between two completely different cultures.
Yeah. Exactly. Think about a businesswoman from Brazil. If she needs to negotiate a contract with a manufacturer in Japan, they aren't likely learning each other's native languages. Right?
No, of course not. They're meeting in the middle.
Right. They're using English. So when you're learning this language, you aren't just, memorizing grammar rules from a textbook. You're actively building a bridge to the rest of the globe.
I love that. I think that's incredibly empowering. You are part of a massive global family of learners. And honestly, that's exactly why we're here. In this channel, Learn and Talk English, we are providing high-quality educational material designed specifically to make that learning journey simple, natural, and highly engaging.
Absolutely.
But I want to set the stage for how we're going to do this today, because today's lesson is a really comprehensive journey through everyday English. We aren't going to rush.
No rushing at all.
Right. We are deliberately going to speak clearly, talk slowly, and we're going to take our time breaking down the actual everyday English you need. We'll be repeating important phrases too. And honestly, wherever you are right now, maybe you're driving or cooking or just walking the dog, I highly encourage you to speak out loud with us.
It is so vital that you do that. Language isn't a passive activity.
Right. You can't just absorb it.
Exactly. You can't just listen to it the way you listen to music and expect to become fluent. You have to physically train the muscles in your mouth to form these new sounds.
That's the truth.
So speaking out loud, even if you're entirely alone in your kitchen, it bridges the gap between understanding a word and actually owning it. So consider this your private interactive classroom.
I love that. A private classroom. Well, let's start right at the beginning of a typical day. Because every day starts with a morning. And if we look at workplace culture, almost every English conversation usually starts with some form of small talk.
Right.
So let's talk about those mornings. We all know the feeling of a morning that just completely falls apart.
Oh, absolutely. Mornings really dictate the rhythm of your entire day. Let's look at the language we use when things go wrong. A very common phrase is simply, I woke up late.
Ugh, the panic of waking up late.
Yes. Or perhaps you want to give the specific reason, so you say, my alarm clock did not work.
My alarm clock did not work. And the immediate consequence of waking up late is the physical state of rushing. Native speakers constantly use the phrase, I was in a hurry.
In a hurry.
Right. Such a visual phrase. In a hurry. Let's really anchor that. Say it with us wherever you are. I was in a hurry.
I was in a hurry.
You're basically running a race before you even leave your house. You're frantically looking for your keys. You're pouring coffee down the sink by accident.
Yeah, the phrase perfectly captures that chaotic energy. The word hurry functions as a noun here, which is interesting. You are literally inside of a state of rushing. You are in a hurry.
So what's the opposite? What if things go well?
If you manage your time well, you might say, my morning was calm and easy. Or you might describe a specific grounding action. I sat by the window, using that past tense of sit. I sat by the window.
I sat by the window. I feel like if you start your day sitting by the window, you're much better prepared for the inevitable socializing you have to do once you leave the house.
You definitely are.
Which brings us to the absolute cornerstone of spoken English. Small talk. Honestly, I know a lot of learners, and even native speakers, who find small talk exhausting. It can feel a bit superficial, right?
Yeah, that's a very common critique.
Because you ask someone how they are, but you don't actually want their medical history or a deep philosophical breakdown of their life.
Right, but that critique misses the actual function of small talk. Small talk isn't an information exchange, it's a relationship calibration.
A relationship calibration. What do you mean by that?
Think of it like a warm-up exercise. You wouldn't sprint a marathon without stretching your muscles first, would you?
Oh, definitely not. I'd pull a muscle.
Exactly. Small talk is the social stretching. It signals to the other person, I am friendly, I acknowledge you, and we are safe to interact. In many English-speaking cultures, skipping the small talk and jumping straight into serious business is considered quite aggressive.
Wow, aggressive. That makes total sense, though. It's a social lubricant. So, what are the safest, most natural ways to open this kind of conversation? I feel like the weather is the ultimate cliche, but we use it constantly.
We do use it constantly, precisely because it is a shared experience. Everyone is experiencing the exact same weather in that moment, so it's a perfect neutral ground. You can easily say, nice weather today, isn't it?
Nice weather today, isn't it?
Notice that tag question at the end, isn't it? That is crucial. It's an invitation. You aren't just stating a fact about the sun. You are explicitly inviting the other person to agree with you and join the conversation.
That is so true. Nice weather today, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so casual. And if you want to ask about them personally, without getting too deep, how do we move beyond the standard robotic, how are you?
A fantastic alternative is, how's your week going?
Oh, I like that. How's your week going?
It's slightly more specific than how are you, which often just gets an automatic I'm fine. Asking how's your week going gives them a timeline. They can talk about a project at work, a busy weekend they just had, or just say it's going smoothly. It shows a genuine, albeit polite, level of interest.
You can also use your environment, right? Like contextual questions.
Yes, exactly.
If you're standing in a long line at a local coffee shop, you can turn to the person next to you and ask, do you come here often? Or if a new colleague just relocated to your city, you could ask, how do you like it here?
Those are great because these starters use the immediate reality around you so they don't feel forced.
Right.
But here is the secret that separates average conversationalists from great ones. The magic of small talk isn't in what you say, it's in how you listen.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Active listening is the real skill. If someone answers your question and says, I just moved here from Chicago, you can't just nod and say, okay.
Right, that kills the conversation immediately.
It completely shuts it down. Active listening requires a follow-up question. You reply, oh, really? What brought you from Chicago? You have to show them that you caught the ball they threw and you are throwing it back.
I love that tennis match analogy. You're keeping the rally going.
Precisely.
But eventually, someone has to go back to their desk or catch their train. Exiting small talk can be incredibly awkward if you don't know the right phrases. You can't just turn your back and walk away in silence.
No, you definitely need a polite closing strategy. You want to leave a positive impression. A highly natural and effective phrase is, it was nice talking about this. Let's chat again soon.
It was nice talking about this. Let's chat again soon. That completely wraps up the interaction.
It does. It complements the conversation you just had, and it provides a soft promise for the future, which allows you to naturally walk away.
Let's focus on that phrase for a second. It was nice talking about this. Let's chat again soon. It's so smooth. But what happens if, during this tennis match of small talk, they hit a ball you just don't see?
Ah, right.
Meaning they use a word or speak at a speed you completely misunderstand. Admitting you don't understand can feel embarrassing.
It shouldn't feel embarrassing at all, honestly. Native speakers ask for clarification constantly, but the phrasing matters. If you just bluntly say, I don't understand, it can put a sudden halt to the flow. It feels a bit like a wall.
So what should we say instead?
Well, you can say something like, could you help me, please? But more commonly in conversation, we use softer idioms. The most common is, sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again, please?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I love the verb catch here. Obviously, we usually talk about catching a baseball or catching a falling glass, but applying it to hearing it creates such a great visual.
It really does. Imagine their words are physical objects flying through the air toward your ear. If you didn't catch that, it means the words just flew right past you. You were trying to grab them, but you missed.
That's brilliant.
It takes the blame off your intelligence. You're not saying, I am incapable of understanding. You're just saying, oops, that phrase slipped past my grasp that time.
So natural. Let's actually repeat that one together because it's a lifesaver in real-time conversations. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Try using that next time you miss a word instead of defaulting to a panicked what.
It changes the entire tone of the interaction. Now, typically, after we navigate our morning routine and survive the small talk in the hallway, we finally arrive at our desks.
Time to work.
Exactly. We're stepping into the professional sphere. Navigating workplace English is a whole different beast, particularly when it comes to discussing our workload.
Right. And in modern work culture, everyone is always busy. But constantly just saying, I am busy, sounds repetitive and, well, a little flat. We need richer vocabulary to express professional busyness.
We do.
Let's look at the phrase swamped with, as in, I am swamped with work right now.
I find the imagery of English idioms so fascinating. Think about what a swamp actually
It's
is.
like a wetland, right?
Yes. It's an area in nature filled with mud, stagnant water, and tangled roots. Walking through a swamp is exhausting. Every step is heavy. Your boots sink into the mud.
Oh, I can picture that.
So when you tell a colleague, I'm swamped with emails, you are vividly communicating that you are sinking. You are surrounded by tasks that are pulling you down, making it hard to move forward easily.
I'm swamped. It's much more descriptive than just saying you have a lot to do.
Definitely.
Another excellent alternative is overloaded. If we break that down, a load is a heavy burden, like a physical box you have to carry. If you are overloaded, someone has stacked too many boxes into your arms and you're about to drop them.
Exactly. I can't take on that new project. I'm completely overloaded this week.
And closely related to those is the phrase under pressure. This is slightly different, isn't it?
It is. It doesn't just mean you have a high volume of work. It means you have high stakes or strict deadlines. You feel a literal psychological weight pressing down on you. The client needs the presentation by noon, so the whole team is under pressure.
I have to push back a bit on the purely negative connotation there, though. Is being under pressure always a bad thing? I feel like in certain corporate cultures, telling people you are under pressure is almost a subtle brag. It implies status, like, look how crucial I am to this operation. I am under so much pressure to deliver. It implies you are doing something that truly matters.
That's a brilliant observation. You're entirely right about the subtext. In many high-performance environments, thriving under pressure is worn as a badge of honor. Great athletes, top-tier surgeons, lead negotiators, they are defined by their ability to operate under pressure. It signals importance.
Right.
However, from a strictly health perspective, chronic pressure eventually leads to feeling overloaded or swamped, which is when burnout happens. So it's a double-edged sword.
Speaking of situations where the pressure is undeniably high, let's talk about job interviews.
Oh, job interviews.
For English learners, a job interview isn't just a test of your professional skills. It's an intense test of your language skills under stress. And there's one specific question that seems to terrify everyone. It's usually the very first thing the interviewer says. Tell me about yourself.
It terrifies native speakers, too. The terror comes from how open-ended it is. It's a blank canvas.
Okay.
But the biggest mistake candidates make, especially when navigating a second language, is taking the question literally.
Yeah.
They think it's an invitation to discuss their personal life. They start talking about their hometown, their 3 cats, and their love for playing the guitar.
Yeah, and from an HR perspective, they don't want to hear any of that. When an interviewer says, tell me about yourself, what they're actually saying is, tell me the professional story of why you're sitting in this chair today.
Precisely. And because you are likely nervous, the most important strategy you can employ is to rely on simple declarative English sentences.
Not complex grammar.
No, this is not the time to show off complex conditional grammar clauses. When adrenaline hits your system, complex grammar structures will abandon you, and you'll end up tangled in your own words. Simple English sounds clear, strong, and deeply confident.
That is such great advice. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
An anchor phrase you can always use to start your answer is, I am currently working as a, just fill in the blank with your job title.
Yes.
I am currently working as a graphic designer. I am currently working as a project manager. Let's practice that. I am currently working as a.
I am currently working as a. It instantly grounds you and the interviewer in the present reality.
It sets a firm foundation. Once you've established the present, you need to connect it to your past experience. But again, you don't need a 20-minute chronological history of every job you've ever held.
Oh, please don't do that.
You cherry-pick the experience that proves you are right for this specific new role. A great transition phrase is, in my previous role, I.
So, in my previous role, I managed a team of developers. Or, in my previous role, I worked directly with customers.
And then, and this is the critical final step, you tie a neat bow on the whole answer by connecting that past experience to the future job. You look them in the eye and say, that is why I am interested in this position.
Let's look at the architecture of that response. It is beautifully clean, present. I am currently working as, past. In my previous role, I. future connection. That is why I'm interested in this position.
It's just so logical.
You are drawing a straight, logical line from your existing skills directly to their company's needs. It shows you understand exactly what they're looking for, and you've used crisp, undeniable English to do it.
If you're listening right now and you have an interview coming up this year, practice that exact three-part structure. Say it out loud until it feels like muscle memory. I am currently working as, in my previous role, that is why I'm interested in this position. It will save you so much anxiety.
Now, moving from the highly structured, formal environment of a job interview back to everyday communication, both in the office and out on the street, we have to confront a type of vocabulary that native speakers use incessantly.
I think I know what's coming.
If you want to transition from sounding like a textbook to sounding truly natural, you have to understand phrasal verbs.
Phrasal verbs. I know learners who absolutely hate them. They can feel like a frustrating puzzle where the pieces don't match the picture on the box. So let's demystify them. What actually is a phrasal verb?
Mechanically, it's a standard verb combined with a small particle, usually a preposition like up, out, into, or off.
But when you crash those two words together, the original meaning vanishes, and a totally new meaning is born.
It's the linguistic equivalent of a chemical reaction. The combination alters the DNA of the words. Take the verb give. To give means to hand an object to someone. The particle up indicates a vertical direction toward the sky.
Right.
But if you combine them into give up, it has absolutely nothing to do with handing an object to the sky. Give up means to surrender, to quit, or to stop trying. The individual parts do not equal the sum.
The analogy I always come back to is baking. Think about baking a cake. You have eggs in one bowl, you have flour in another. An egg is an egg. You can fry it, boil it, scramble it. Flour is just dry powder. They have their own distinct identities.
That's a great way to picture it.
But when you mix the eggs and the flour together, put them in a pan and bake them, a transformation happens. You don't have eggs and flour anymore. You have a cake. It's an entirely new entity. A phrasal verb is that cake. You can't separate the meaning back into the egg and the flour. You just have to accept and understand the new creation.
That analogy perfectly captures the frustration and the beauty of them. Now, while the meaning is a new creation, the grammar dictating how we use these phrasal verbs in a sentence has very specific rules. We generally divide them into two main categories: separable and non-separable.
Let's tackle separable phrasal verbs first.
Just as the name implies, these are verbs where you can physically split the verb and the particle, placing the object of your sentence right in the middle.
Let's look at some high-frequency workplace examples. Turn down, which means to reject an offer. Pick up, which can mean to collect someone. And call off, which means to cancel an event.
Because these are separable, you have structural flexibility. You can say, they called off the meeting, that's correct. Or you can put the object right in the middle, they called the meeting off. Both are perfectly natural and grammatically sound.
However, there is a rigid grammatical trap here that you must be aware of, right?
Yes, there is. The rule changes if the object of your sentence is a pronoun, words like it, him, her, or them. If you use a pronoun, the phrasal verb must separate. The pronoun has to be sandwiched in the middle.
So you can't just stick it at the end.
No, you cannot say, they called off it. It violates the rhythmic structure of spoken English. You absolutely must say, they called it off.
This is entirely about the rhythm and stress timing of English. Call off it feels clunky in the mouth. Call it off flows. Let's really hammer this home because it's a game changer for sounding natural.
It really is.
If I'm talking about a job offer, I can say she turned down the job or she turned the job down. But if I replace the job with it, I have to say she turned it down, turned it down. The it gets swallowed up in the middle.
Mastering that specific pronoun rule will elevate your conversational English immensely. Now let's contrast that with the second category, non-separable phrasal verbs. To go back to your baking analogy, these are the cakes that cannot be sliced. The verb and the particle are permanently glued together. No matter what, they sit side by side in the sentence.
Some great examples here are look after, which means to take care of someone or something. Come across, meaning to find something completely by chance. Look into, which means to investigate a problem. And get over, meaning to recover from an illness or an emotional shock.
With these non-separable verbs, even if you are using a pronoun, the verb and particles stay united. If you are watching your neighbor's cat, you say, I will look after the cat. And if you use a pronoun, you say, I will look after it.
You would never say, I will look the cat after.
Or, I will look it after. The words look and after refuse to be separated.
And just when you think you've memorized those two categories, English throws in a third, slightly more intimidating group, three-part phrasal verbs.
Oh, yes, the three-part ones.
These consist of a verb followed by two distinct particles. But the good news here is that the grammatical rule is incredibly simple. Three-part phrasal verbs are always, without exception, inseparable. They travel as a solid block of 3 words.
These are incredibly common in professional settings. Consider come up with, which means to invent or think of an idea. The marketing team needs to come up with a new strategy. Another one is get rid of, which means to eliminate or throw away something unwanted. We need to get rid of this outdated software.
Or put up with, which means to tolerate a highly annoying or difficult situation without complaining. I don't know how she puts up with that loud construction noise every day.
Put up with is such a necessary phrase for navigating office politics.
It really is. But my favorite three-part phrasal verb, and probably the most positive one, is look forward to. It means you are genuinely excited about an event in the future. I look forward to our vacation. Or simply, I'm looking forward to it. Let's practice that. I am looking forward to it.
I am looking forward to it. It has such a nice anticipatory ring to it.
It does. And notice how look forward to smoothly transitions our focus to the future. Which brings us to another complex area of communication. Once you have a strong grasp of vocabulary and phrasal verbs, you are inevitably going to find yourself in situations where you disagree with the people around you.
That's human nature. Language isn't just a tool for universal agreement. It's a tool for exploring friction and expressing distinct viewpoints.
Exactly. If you want a seat at the table, you have to be able to state your opinion and, more importantly, handle disagreements gracefully. Let's talk about the art of expressing opinions. Before you even state your idea, you need a runway. You need introductory phrases that signal to your audience, hey, I'm about to share a personal perspective.
Setting the stage is crucial. If you just state your opinion as a raw fact, it can sound aggressive. You soften it with introductory clauses. Simple phrases like, in my opinion, or the way we see it, are perfect.
They frame your upcoming statement as a subjective viewpoint, which invites discussion rather than shutting it down.
Right. But if you've done the research, though, and you are highly confident in your position, you can dial up the intensity. You can use phrases of conviction like, there's no doubt that, or we are convinced that.
So, we are convinced that this is the wrong strategy.
Yes. When you say that, you are telling your colleagues that you have deeply analyzed the data and your stance is firm.
But conversations are dynamic. Often you're building on what someone else just said. If a colleague makes a brilliant point, it's good politics and good manners to validate them before adding your own spin. You can say, that's a good point. And then to seamlessly introduce your new piece of information, you use a transitional phrase like, by the way.
So the flow is, that's a good point.
Right.
By the way, we also need to consider how this impacts the budget.
Validation is easy. The real tightrope walk is disagreeing. Disagreeing in your native language is hard enough, but doing it in a second language can feel like diffusing a bomb. You don't want to accidentally offend someone because you chose the wrong level of politeness. So let's break down the spectrum of disagreement, starting with soft, neutral disagreement.
Soft disagreement is vital in professional environments, especially in cultures that value indirect communication. You want to express no, but without injuring anyone's ego. You rely on phrases like, I don't think so, or not necessarily.
Another one is not quite, or I'm not so sure.
Notice the mechanics here. You are using negative words, not or don't, but you are pairing them with concepts of uncertainty. You aren't calling the other person wrong. You are simply expressing your own inability to fully agree.
It's a linguistic coven. But what about the other end of the spectrum? Blunt, direct disagreement. Phrases like, you're wrong, are you serious, or you don't know what you're talking about.
I have to issue a massive warning label on those phrases. In almost all English-speaking professional environments, blunt disagreement is considered highly unprofessional, aggressive, and rude.
Wow, so avoid them entirely at work.
Avoid them entirely. It's viewed as a personal attack rather than a critique of the idea. You should really only use language like, you're wrong, if you are talking to a very close family member, a best friend where the social bond is unbreakable, or if you are intentionally trying to escalate a conflict because a severe boundary was crossed.
I completely agree. So if you are in that boardroom and someone proposes a terrible idea, and you can't use soft disagreement because the idea is truly bad, how do you strongly object while remaining professional?
You pivot to formal, polite disagreement. These phrases carry heavyweight, but are dressed in a tuxedo of manners. A classic phrase is, I beg to differ.
I beg to differ. It sounds very proper.
It's slightly old-fashioned, but it commands respect. It essentially means I disagree with you entirely, but I respect you enough to state it formally. Another powerful phrase is, I'd say the exact opposite. This confronts the idea head-on without attacking the speaker's character.
Those are great. But I want to share my personal favorite technique for business negotiations and honestly just for life in general. It's the yes but technique. It's pure conversational psychology.
Oh, I love this one.
Before you unleash your disagreement, you intentionally validate the person's core concern.
Yeah.
You say, I take your point, but, or I get what you're saying, but.
The psychology behind that is fascinating. Human beings have a deep fundamental need to feel heard. If you immediately launch into why someone is wrong, their defensive walls go up instantly. They stop listening to you and start formulating their counterattack.
Yep, it becomes a fight.
But when you start with, I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
You satisfy that need to be heard, you lower their defenses. Once they feel acknowledged, their brain is much more receptive to the word but and the alternative perspective you are about to present.
I take your point about the cost, but if we don't invest now, we'll lose market share. It is incredibly diplomatic.
Sometimes, though, no matter how brilliantly diplomatic you are, you hit a wall. You have your opinion, they have theirs, and neither of you is going to budge. The discussion just runs in circles. Instead of letting it turn into a toxic argument, English has specific idioms to gracefully exit the battlefield. The most famous is agree to disagree.
Let's repeat that one slowly. Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
It's a brilliant social contract. It means both parties acknowledge the stalemate, they accept that they hold opposing views, they recognize that further debate is pointless, and they mutually choose to stop the argument.
It's a highly mature way to end a debate.
Another really fun, slightly folksy idiom for this exact situation is different strokes for different folks. The word strokes here refers to ways of doing things like strokes of a paintbrush. And folks is just a casual word for people.
So it literally translates to different people have different ways of operating, and that's fine. You like vacationing in the snowy mountains. I like lying on a hot beach. Different strokes for different folks. It removes judgment from personal preference.
That phrase actually provides a perfect bridge to our next topic, because a great way to use your new conversational skills and opinions is by traveling. Let's cover vocabulary for your next trip.
Traveling really forces you to use English as a true lingua franca. Let's delve into the vocabulary of global travel.
I love travel vocabulary because it's so aspirational. But before you get to the beach, you have to survive the planning phase. And that requires a very specific word, the itinerary. An itinerary is your master plan.
Right. It's the formal schedule of your trip. It lists your flight numbers, your hotel check-in times, and the tours you've booked. If you lose your itinerary, you're flying blind.
And when you're building that itinerary, you have to make choices about the type of experience you want. A very popular option is the all-inclusive resort.
All-inclusive is a compound adjective that is music to a weary traveler's ears. It means that the upfront price you pay includes absolutely everything. Your hotel room, 3 meals a day, all your drinks by the pool, and often your airport transfers.
The psychological benefit is that you can put your wallet in the hotel safe and never look at it again for a week.
It's the ultimate relaxation. But while you're packing for that all-inclusive resort, you face a universal dilemma. Do you overpack or do you travel light?
Ooh, this is a big debate in my household.
To overpack means to let your anxiety dictate your suitcase. You think, what if there's a blizzard? What if I get invited to a formal gala? So you pack 5 pairs of shoes for a 3-day weekend. Your suitcase is bursting at the seams. You are overpacking.
The exact opposite philosophy is to travel light. Traveling light requires discipline. You bring only the absolute essentials, maybe just a small carry-on backpack.
The benefit of traveling light is physical freedom. You can easily navigate crowded train stations, you don't have to wait at baggage claim, and you aren't dragging 50 pounds of anxiety behind you on cobblestone streets. It really is a philosophy of travel.
I am terribly guilty of overpacking. I always pack as if I might need to survive in the wilderness for a month. But let me ask you, the listener, right now, and be honest with yourself. What kind of traveler are you? Do you meticulously travel light, or do you overpack just in case?
It says a lot about your personality.
Once you finally arrive with your heavy or light luggage, you need the right words to describe the environments you are exploring. Most tourists immediately flock to the landmarks. A landmark is a prominent, universally recognized structure or natural feature that defines a location.
Like the Colosseum in Rome, The Sydney Opera House or the Grand Canyon, they are the icons of a destination.
But because landmarks are so iconic, they inevitably become touristy. Touristy is a slightly pejorative adjective. It means a place has lost some of its authentic charm because it has been entirely taken over by the tourism industry. It's crowded, there are people selling selfie sticks everywhere, and you rarely hear the local language spoken.
Some people love the vibrant energy of touristy spots, but others crave something else. They want to go off the beaten path.
I love the idiom off the beaten path. Think about a literal path through a forest. If thousands of people walk on it every day, the grass is beaten down into the dirt. It's the easy, obvious route.
To step off the beaten path means to intentionally leave the popular tourist zones and venture into residential neighborhoods, quiet provincial towns, or wilder nature. You go where the locals actually live their lives.
And you want to go off the beaten path, specifically to avoid the dreaded tourist trap. A tourist trap is an inherently negative concept. It describes an establishment, usually a restaurant, a museum, or a shop, that exists solely to extract maximum money from naive visitors.
The food is typically mediocre, the service is rushed, and the prices are outrageously inflated compared to what a local would pay 2 streets over.
The holy grail for any traveler is finding the opposite of a tourist trap, the hidden gem. A gem is a precious stone, something rare and valuable. A hidden gem is a magnificent little spot, perhaps a family-run bakery tucked in an alleyway, or a stunning secluded cove that hasn't been written about in all the major guidebooks yet.
Finding a hidden gem makes you feel like an explorer rather than just a tourist.
Let me push back on how we categorize these things, though. We set up landmark and tourist trap as different things, but aren't they often occupying the exact same geographical space? Can a place be both?
That's a highly perceptive distinction. Yes, they absolutely overlap, but they represent different aspects of the experience. The landmark itself, let's take a famous bridge, for example, is a profound piece of human history. The architecture, the historical weight, that is the landmark. You should see it.
Yeah.
However, the expensive cafe located directly next to the bridge, charging double the price for a coffee simply because of its proximity, that is the tourist trap. The trap operates in the shadow of the landmark. The savvy traveler enjoys the landmark but walks 10 minutes away to eat.
That's the perfect way to look at it. Now, beyond where you go, there's the style of how you stay. Are you looking for a rustic experience, or do you want to be pampered? Rustic describes an aesthetic that is simple, old-fashioned, and charmingly unrefined. Think of a log cabin in the mountains with a wood-burning stove and thick wool blankets. It's cozy, but it lacks modern luxury.
Conversely, to be pampered is to surrender to luxury and intense personal care. It's the spa experience. When you are pampered, your every need is anticipated. Someone hands you a plush robe, pours you water, and gives you a massage. You are treated delicately.
But if a rustic cabin still feels too luxurious, you might decide to go roughing it. Roughing it is a great idiom for intentionally giving up modern comforts. You are sleeping in a tent on the hard ground, no electricity. Maybe you're washing your face in a freezing river. That's roughing it.
And ironically, many stressed corporate workers pay good money to go roughing it so they can finally unplug.
Unplugging has become a modern travel necessity. Literally, to unplug means to pull an electrical cord out of a wall socket. Metaphorically, it means to take a break from phones and work. You turn off your smartphone, you ignore your email, and you sever your connection to the daily grind.
You unplug to recharge your own mental batteries.
When the trip is over and you're back home, you inevitably evaluate the experience with your friends. You'll debate whether a famous destination was overrated or underrated. These are essential review words. If you call a place overrated, you are making a bold claim. You're saying that everyone says it's great, but your personal experience didn't match the hype. The public rating is too high.
Underrated is the inverse. It's a compliment. If you say a lesser-known city is underrated, you are saying you think it is better than everyone else says it is. Its true value is higher than its public rating.
And finally, to prove you actually went on this trip, you unpack your souvenirs. A souvenir is any item you bring back to evoke memories of the location. A beautiful hand-woven rug from Morocco is a magnificent souvenir.
However, if you bought a tiny, cheap plastic statue that was mass-produced in a factory halfway across the world, we wouldn't call that a proper souvenir. We'd call it a trinket. A trinket is a minor, inexpensive item.
Trinkets clutter your shelves. True souvenirs carry the weight of a memory. Now, while traveling brings wonderful memories, it also exposes us to new environments, different foods, and shifting climates. And sometimes our bodies rebel. Getting sick in a foreign country is a deeply vulnerable experience.
It really is. Knowing how to explain your symptoms is vital. Navigating a clinic in a second language is terrifying if you don't have the specific health vocabulary.
When you're sick, your brain is foggy, and that's the worst time to try and invent English translations for your pain. So let's equip you. Imagine you're sitting in a bright, sterile clinic in London or New York. The doctor walks in. They almost always use a variation of the same opening phrase. They will ask, "What seems to be the problem?" Or, "What are your symptoms?"
The word symptom is crucial. A symptom isn't the disease itself. It is the physical evidence that your body is fighting a disease. A fever is a symptom. A cough is a symptom.
So the doctor asks, it is your turn to report the evidence. You can start with a very standard construction. I've got a fever, for instance, I've got a cold, or I've got a rash.
But pain is subjective and hard to describe. English divides general pain into two distinct categories: aches and pains. We often say, I have a lot of aches and pains today, but what's the nuance?
An ache is usually a dull, continuous sensation. A headache, a stomach ache, a toothache. A pain is generally sharper, more localized, and more sudden. I felt a sharp pain in my knee when I walked down the stairs.
That distinction helps the doctor immensely. Once you describe your symptoms, the doctor will evaluate and offer advice. For minor illnesses, the universal medical advice in English is, stay in bed and get lots of rest. Rest is the body's mechanism for healing. They will also universally command you to drink lots of fluids.
Let's pause on the word fluids, because learners often wonder why doctors don't just say drink water. Fluids is a broader category. Yes, water is a fluid, but so is hot herbal tea, clear chicken broth, or an electrolyte sports drink. When your body is fighting a virus, it needs constant hydration from various sources.
To help you recover, the doctor might prescribe medicine, or they might suggest remedies. A remedy is a treatment for a health issue. Modern antibiotics are a scientific remedy, but gargling warm salt water for a sore throat is a classic home remedy.
But here's a critical cultural and linguistic point. What if you listen to the doctor's diagnosis, and every instinct in your body tells you they are wrong? In many cultures, questioning a doctor is taboo. In English-speaking medical systems, you have a specific right to seek a second opinion.
A second opinion means asking another doctor if you don't agree with the first one. You want to see if Dr. B arrives at the same conclusion as Dr. A. It puts the patient in control.
I think that concept of taking control is a perfect pivot to our final topic today. Learning all these words, from medical terms to phrasal verbs, can feel overwhelming. Getting a second opinion is about fixing a potential medical mistake. In language learning, you also have to constantly seek out your own mistakes, fix them, and stay motivated on your language journey.
Diagnosing grammatical errors is like diagnosing symptoms. You look for the patterns. And there is one mistake I see in learners from almost every native language background. It's saying, I am agree.
Nice.
This happens because in many languages, agreement is a state of being. But in English, agree is the verb. It is the action itself. You do not need am in front of it.
It's such a common trap. You just need to drop the am. You simply say, I agree or I don't agree. It's cleaner, it's faster, and it's grammatically sound. A second, incredibly common mistake is using the present tense to describe past events. A learner might tell a story and say, yesterday I go to the supermarket.
The brain is doing this because the concept of yesterday already establishes the timeline, so the brain gets lazy and leaves the verb in its easiest present form. But English demands grammatical agreement. Don't say, yesterday I go. Say, yesterday I went.
Yesterday I went.
You have to train your brain to conjugate on the fly.
Now, speaking of time markers, let's address the absolute nightmare that is English prepositions of time. In, on, and at. These three tiny words cause more frustration than almost anything else, but we can demystify them clearly.
Yes. Let's break it down. We use in for big things. Think of centuries, decades, years, and seasons. In 2024. In October. In the summer.
As the time period shrinks to a specific day, we switch the preposition. We use on. You use on for specific days. On Monday, on my birthday. If the time period is exactly 1 day long, it's almost always on.
Finally, for a highly specific time on a clock, we use at 5 a.m., at noon.
Now, because English is English, there is a glaring exception. We say in the morning and in the afternoon. But when the sun goes down, the rule shatters. We do not say in the night, we say at night. Emphasize that at night is an exception you just have to memorize.
And memorizing those quirks requires massive exposure to the language. You have to build study habits for fluency. The most effective study habit is securing a conversation partner. You need someone who forces your brain to process unpredictable real-time responses.
If you don't have access to a conversation partner, You have to engineer your own practice. This is going to sound eccentric, but you should talk to yourself out loud in your house. Narrate your life. When you're making breakfast, say out loud, I am opening the fridge. I am cracking the egg. It feels ridiculous, but it aggressively forces your brain to retrieve vocabulary in real-time context.
It absolutely works. Another fundamental shift you need to make is how you study vocabulary. Learn vocabulary in full phrases, not isolated words. The brain struggles to recall a single word floating in a void. Instead, learn vocabulary in full chunks. Memorize the entire phrase. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Context is everything. Imagine how you will use the language in real life. Connect English to your hobbies. If you are obsessed with baking, watch cooking videos in English. Start small with reading maybe children's books before long novels. When your brain is genuinely curious about the content, it absorbs the language as a byproduct.
Which brings us to the most critical component, motivation and mindset. Learning a language as an adult is a marathon. There will be plateaus. When you hit those walls, you have to remember your why.
Remember your why. Why did you start learning? Do you want a promotion? Do you want to travel? Write your specific why on a sticky note.
And as you pursue that big goal, celebrate small wins. Every little step forward is a victory. Did you understand a joke in English today? Celebrate it. Acknowledge your own progress.
There's a profound quote that I think encapsulates the mindset required for this. If you are not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. Determination is the only prerequisite.
And if I can add one final insight, imperfect English that is spoken is better than perfect English that stays in your head. Do not let the pursuit of perfection paralyze you. Mistakes are teachers. They show you exactly where the boundaries are.
Embrace the mess. As we wrap up this extensive journey through everyday English, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've spent this time breaking down grammar rules, analyzing workplace idioms, and categorizing travel vocabulary. But language isn't just a set of rules. It's a bridge to understanding other cultures and sharing your own story. Language is about connection, not perfection. When you open your mouth to speak, focus on connecting with the human being standing in front of you.
That is the absolute essence of why we do this. If your primary goal is human connection, the right vocabulary and grammar will follow.
Thank you so much for dedicating your time and focus to joining us today. We know it was a lot of material, but you stuck with it. Please make sure to subscribe and like the Learn and Talk English podcast, and we genuinely want to hear from you. Head down to the comments and answer this specific question. What is one thing you did today that made you proud of your English? Write it down. We read every single comment. And remember our rule about the brain. Repetition is key. I strongly encourage you to listen to this entire long audio session again tomorrow. You will be amazed at how much deeper your understanding is on the second pass.
It has been an absolute pleasure guiding you through the mechanics and the magic of English today. Keep practicing, keep speaking out loud, and keep making those mistakes.
Keep connecting. A very warm goodbye from your teachers. We will see you next time.